Yeah, but I had a hard time understanding the, especially, is it okay? I say the
Yes.
Definitely.
deschooling society thing part, because he was going many of the topics. I couldn't connect what's his point to what he was trying to say. I read it several times and then tried to figure out, but I couldn't really understood much, I don't think.
I had
Yeah,
to
me
reread
too.
it so many times. Like I felt very, I'm glad you said it, Akira, because I wasn't going to say it out loud. So I'm glad you were brave enough to say it because, but when you said that, I was like, yeah, it's like I had to read it over and over many times. It was like, it was very, like, what's it?
He's jumping from one topic to the other and then saying
Yeah.
things. I don't know if it's connecting or not. I mean, I pick some of the quotes maybe interested me, but it really didn't continue for the whole page of 35 pages, so I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was very like aspirational and not like at all practical, you know? So it was like it was really everything existed for him in this realm of like what he was imagining, and it was hard to like apply it to practical anything you know what I mean? Like it was so aspirational, like, you know.
That's how I feel as well. I feel like especially towards the end, like at first I'm like trying to I see his point like about like the like how schooling is different from learning, but I just feel the plans are a little bit like less realistic. So I kind of read them just to see, like maybe I was just thinking of like I see that need, like how like maybe I would just focus on the need he points out rather than just like the specific way he proposed to do that, because I just feel like that would be really challenging to realize in any society.
Yeah. Hello, Hailey.
Hi. Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
I see that too, because I think he's not making like a proper argument. He's just proposing his own ideas instead of explaining why this is the best solution instead of other solutions that we have. And yeah, and also I think his language or sentence are really, like, for me, it's hard to make meaning out of what he's writing there. So yeah, that's also why I came here to like discuss more about this piece, because I really like perhaps only understand 30 or 20% of it.
On a really like practical level, like when I was first reading, especially the title, I loved Cisco High. When I like the title, I was like, yes, like we need to de-school, like totally reprogram school. But like as I got more and more into it, like and this is like kind of just such a dark way of like looking at it, but just like allowing, you know, like if you allow anyone, like he was criticizing like certifications and red tape and all those kind of things, but like people are not always good. Sorry, my puppy is. So, but people are not always good. And like the idea of just allowing like anybody to lead like anybody, like we saw what happened with like Craigslist when like that was just supposed to be like a community of people reaching out for resources, and there ended up being like a Craigslist killer, right? Or like the internet is just so vast in YouTube in allowing children to learn new skills. Like they can go on and learn how to play a guitar from YouTube. But there was also that guy that went on YouTube that taught children how to like commit suicide. Remember, you know, like, so his ideas are really like beautiful in the aspirational realm, but in terms of like how some people are not good in their hearts, like this would be like Lord of the Flies. Like it would be total chaos with abuse and violence and that kind of thing, you know, like, so not to take such a dark turn, but as I got more and more into it and just started thinking, how could this walk out? It's like we see some examples of this kind of walking itself out, and they're not good examples, you know, like they're kind of scary to me. What did you guys think?
I can start. So I like he's talking about the certificate and pedigree. I mean, I feel mixed. I have mixed feelings towards that. Like on the one hand, I feel like it's like what he proposes is more like a free market idea of education, that you don't set any like official ways of like certifying people, and then you basically let the market decide who has more knowledge, who can attract more students, and who cannot do that, and then they will be naturally left out of this like process. But on the other hand, I also feel like I don't know about like, is it because I am in a position like wanting to be teacher, that I'm like kind of thinking of like my own like potential privilege that I may lose, or privilege or not. I don't know. Like I feel I have mixed feelings on that. I do agree with him on the degree part. I think it's really like kind of, I don't think it's a good way to measure people based on their like, you know, diploma certificate rather than their actual abilities. Because I feel that like, I know like some companies, they are starting like not to intentionally not look at where people graduate from on their CV, on their resume, and just evaluate them based on how well they do their jobs. I think that would be like a change that I would like to see, that you don't judge teachers based on where they graduate from. You judge based on like how they teach, how they design their curriculum, how they treat their students. But I don't know if that's the way I want to entirely get rid of certification. So I do have mixed feelings on that issue, and I want to hear like what other people think.
I really like what you said about free market, because I think his theory is based upon a certain assumption for students or learners. Like the free market or the economy, the subject of economy is based on the assumption that we are all rational people. And I think like his theory is somewhat based on the assumption that all individuals are willing to learn and have the ability to learn, so that if we, as he said, spread out the resources and make it equal for everyone, and would have the ability to learn. But in the reality, things are really different. And I think he somewhat ignores the difference between individuals and see them as a whole entity. And I just wanted to comment on that point.
Cisco, I have a question about your school. Being a charter school, does your school require teacher certifications, or can they like get it alternatively once they've started teaching there?
So originally, you could start working and then get your your alt cert, as they call it. So you can get certified within a set time. So there's an agreement built into your contract, or not a contract, it's at will. So it's just built into your agreement, whatever. So that's actually what I did. So I started, I was in mortgage before this. So I was in banking, and I was just so disillusioned by the whole system, and I wanted to have with passion. So I became a teacher, but I didn't have a certification. So I worked towards that while I was working. So I think it worked out really well. But yeah, I know some other charter schools require their teachers to have a certificate, to be certified. I think that's how it is now. So in have a certification.
Curious, because kind of the job you differential model. And that was some of the best educators I had ever worked with. Like people like yourself who had shown ambition and passion and a work ethic and were very skilled in, like not necessarily as like having experience as educators, but that proven track record transferred to being able to like be an inspiring and very knowledgeable educator. And it made me think of that while I was reading this, like allowing people that are really skilled, like even like, so if you're a really skilled like mechanic and you're able to inspire people, being able to like lead engineering classes or would, you know, like different classes around that based on your prior skill. Like, I think I was enjoying when he was talking about that, because I feel like that was kind of doable in a way, or I've seen it done before, you know?
For sure. And if there's another model, I don't know if you all have heard of it. It's called Urban Teachers. And it's through the graduate school at Johns Hopkins. And it's built kind of in this model of like a medical school model. So it's like it's like a 4-year program basically. So you have like a residency, you have like an internship, and so support. And I think the model is really cool. I like the way that they built it around like this medical school model.
It reminds me of the charter school unions with common school. I wonder if your school also joined one of those unions.
Possibly. I'm not sure, but it's interesting that you asked me, or that we're talking about and this they talk bad a lot about, they do not like charter schools at all. And so like
Why not?
They say that they're taking away the resources from the traditional ISDs, school districts, and they employ gimmicky programs, and a lot of them are established with the notion that students of color are inadequate and that they need to rise to the standard of the norm. That's I mean, I agree with that. I don't think that it's students that are inadequate. I think it's the system, that build. So areas, and to offer an IB program to kids that would not normally get access to that IB program is amazing. So I'm fully dedicated to the place that I work.
So I'm also curious, does being a charter school means that you have the largest room for innovation? Because there is also a magnet school. I'm not so familiar with the US educational. Because charter school is quite similar to the bilingual international school system here in China. So as for this schooling, I was wondering, the ideas were very compelling, but how realistic are the ideas? It talks about providing all who want to learn with access to available resources at any time. yeah, this is one of my question. Like, it's written 4 decades ago, but putting into now, how realistic could it be?
Something that came to mind for me was Holt's reading from a few weeks ago on like how are kids really not interested, or have we just like made them not or made them, thank you, Kira, or made them like numb and disinterested. And I don't know like the answer to that, but it just reminded me of that question of like when Illich was asking like, or let's just make this available to people who want to learn. I'm like, but aren't there a lot of people that don't want to learn? And then I like immediately thought of John Holt, and I'm like, maybe that's not the case. Like maybe like children are like taught not to love learning because of the schooling, you know? And like, if this happened at a young age, like if kids were always encouraged to explore and discover and be curious and make mistakes, like, then maybe this would never ever be a human question. Like maybe it would be maybe we would all be standing here right now and be like, yes, everyone loves to learn. People, you know, but maybe it's because of the schooling that we're asking ourselves, do people want to learn? Like, would people be in a hurry to learn? I don't know, but yeah, same question. Hey, Eiling, it made me like, but it really kind of made me think of the John Holt thing. Like, what have we done to our kids that we're even asking this question of, do they want to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point, because this is why I'm also interested in constructionism, because I think one main concept of constructionism is like to integrate learning into playing, and to give the children a relaxing process and enjoyable process to learn. But I also remembered when the first reading we have, the first or second of Karen's reading, she said to combine agency and structure. So I still think that structure is also needed to like somewhat pushes the kids into the right path of learning, instead, or if there's not enough structure, or like the classrooms, the school settings that we have right now, perhaps they will spend a lot of useless time just tinkering, or sorry for saying tinkering in a bad meaning, but like not having a direction, or just exploring without a result.
And I'm on your side. Yeah. Like, the structure is quite crucial for the new or beginning learners, for them to kind of lay a foundation so that they can tap into the agency as they come into the next or higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it also reminds me of a book written by Howard Gardner, which is called The Unschooled Mind.
Cool.
So I was actually wondering, like, unschooling and deschooling, what's the difference?
I think, and this is random, I think Gardner is at Hugsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think he teaches a course, and he came up with the multiple intelligences, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he's still teaching now.
Oh, okay.
But he's doing research in the Project Zero.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Wow, so cool. We're surrounded by so many amazing people.
Yeah.
Including all of you guys.
Sorry to interrupt.
Including y'all.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Because Debbie, you just quitted and I started the recording, so I don't know where this recording is gonna end up, but yeah. Let's get back to the topic. Sure. Mm-hmm. So what is Howard's point? What did he mention about unschooling?
Actually, I haven't finished the whole book. I read it like 6 months ago.
Mhm.
I'm gonna like review
Yeah.
it a bit.
Sure.
And I think it's interesting that we're bouncing around to different authors, because when Rebecca was talking about, you know, what are we doing to these learners, and then I thought about Paulo Freire in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, on how he talks about, you know, we're anesthetizing these students, where, you know, and then, you know, what does that mean to anesthetize? You know, where we're making them so they don't feel the force of the oppression from the system, and just kind of go through the motions, and that's so devastating, you know, to think about, you know, school as being school as anesthesia instead of freedom. And then I thought about, you know, when I was reading through Illich, the first speech, I was like, oh my goodness, like that was like,
Yeah.
that was like total, like mic drop, and he, like, I don't know if he like flipped the podium and then like stormed off. But I was like, oh my goodness, I can imagine all of those the kids that are sitting there like, I'm gonna do mission work, and just sitting there and just like just getting it from Illich. But anyways, the second reading, there were a lot of really cool things and things that I agreed with about liberation to access, because I definitely see that. So like, small example, calculators, the TI 84s, or I think that the TI 89s or whatever, super expensive. They're like $300, and a lot of kids can't afford them. Microscopes, you know, these are all resources that are controlled, and they should be, you know, given to the kids, you know, completely free access, and that would definitely help to kind of shake off that anesthesia and kind of stimulate that creativity. And then his example of the tape recorder and the TV, I was like, yeah, that's an interesting idea, but I don't know how that would work. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting idea. And then one final quote that I did definitely agree with and kind of resonated with me, and it's so true. It's so relevant to what's going on right now. So technology is available to develop either independence and learning or bureaucracy and teaching. So I think that's something that's really powerful, you know, as we navigate through both virtual teaching and virtual learning. So I'm going to be thinking about that. So yeah, that's what I got.
Cisco, your comment about like the calculators and the microscopes reminds me of, and I don't remember whose reading this was, but maybe it was the week that we did Scratch, was like, and it was an older reading too, about like computers and getting computers in the hands of like every kid. Remember that? And how it was like, if like he did the math and he was like, you could literally put a computer in the hands of every single kid. We're just not doing that. But then the way that we have done it has just we've not really done it for educational purposes. Like every single kid has a device, but it's for like social media corporate purposes. Like it's not, you know, for this learning. So it could have been, you know, done, but. Are you guys is anybody doing like remote teaching now? And are your schools, like, what are your schools doing about resources for the remote learners? Like, are your schools giving out Chromebooks, calculators, textbooks? Like what, I'm curious to hear like how other schools are dealing with that resource gap.
So my school is now physical, but I'd like to share a piece written by McKinsey, a report. It says that like 6 months of virtual learning would actually enlarge the gap by 3 months, which is so shocking to me.
Can you share that article in the chat?
Yeah. I like.
I'm wondering what he specifically points to enlarging that gap, like, because I see it too, but I'm curious, like, is it the absence of resources? Is it the specific instructional models? Like, I'm so,
yeah, actually there were like 3 modalities, like for the average learning, or students who are not engaged, or students who just skips classes. Yeah, you guys keep talking and I will try to find the piece of writing.
Yeah, I definitely see it. And I know across the nation, failure rates are just astronomical. But again, it's we're trying to, education systems are trying to exist and trying to impose standards under the assumption that everything is normal, when this is everything that is, and this is completely abnormal. So like, you know, it boggles my mind, and I get so frustrated at work, and we talk about and one of my colleagues, my fellow teachers, you know, they were talking about, oh, we need to do grades, you need to make sure you do this, you need to make sure you do this, but make sure you show grace to the students. And then she was like, well, when are you going to show grace to the teachers? And I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, we're operating under the assumption that everything is business as usual, and it's not. And to answer your question, Hailing, we're providing Chromebooks to all kids that are virtual, and we have a hybrid model, so they could come in or they can be virtual, or a little bit of both. So we're providing those Chromebooks and hotspots if they don't have internet. But what we're seeing is the internet is the bandwidth can't keep up with it, with all the kids on Zoom in the school. And there's so many websites, educational websites, that are blocked on their Chromebook. So it's like, you know, you provide one area of access, but then you're met with another barrier. So it's difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, similar barriers for sure.
And also, like, Akira, if you have specific part in the text you don't understand, you're welcome to directly take us to the parts, and we can try to figure something out. Because Akira in the beginning said he has some, like, he didn't quite understand the deschooling piece very much.
No, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm listening and then try to figure out all that. I mean, I just couldn't get much of thing because it was going one way or the other. And then the second book about the Hell with a Goodness Intention, that book also, what was his point on this one? This part was, he was mainly saying several things, and then, but what was it? I forgot. But it wasn't doing some kind, I'm not sure this is correct or not, but volunteer type of work thing, and then just don't put, what his point was, it was more of the how would I say it? Look, you don't pretend that you are doing something good for the wait, how would I put it? Good thing that you, wait. He was saying, I forgot. It's okay. Never mind. Never mind. You can tell me that. I felt like after reading, I thought like, don't do something for volunteer or something good just to make you feel better, instead of looking at reality type of thing, a face. Because sometimes I feel same way I was in the volunteer thing, some of the thing often some people doing it because they love the act of doing, oh, I'm helping others, not the actual looking at the actual thing of the fact of what is getting type of thing. What is a receiver is really getting what is supposed to be, instead of it's more of the people sometimes doing it for their own goods of us, that I don't know, this may be a bad word, but feeling that, oh, I'm doing something good, I feel good about it. But in actual term, the receiver wasn't really getting anything out of it. That's what this book was about. I wasn't sure. Maybe I'm totally off. I'm not sure.
That.
Yeah, the piece is so mind blowing to me. I mean, people oftentimes they have good intentions, but end up with doing something wrong.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And sometimes people doing the charitable things are also having this condescending posture, like, I'm like saving your life, I'm doing you a favor, but actually they're not.
Yeah, intention is good. Intention is good thing that they have something to whatever they thought about, that's a good thing, but at the end it wasn't properly good. That's what it is. Okay.
There's deeper, like basically, I think he's really trying to invite the students to think about when you say you're doing good, or like you're doing good for who? Are you really doing good for the people in the village, or are you doing good for yourself? Because I think he uses a word like vacationing salesperson. And, you know, a lot of people who do this kind of like volunteer work abroad, for part of the reason for travel there. So, but they kind of like make it sounds nicer than it actually is. And I feel like his speech is really, I mean, not every student is like that, but his speech definitely speaks to the hypocrisy of like some students who do this kind of work for a more selfish reasons. And also I feel like that make me think a little bit. I don't know if that's like a very personal interpretation, but he also talked about how some teachers who are very authoritative and they get the certification and they enter the schools, and he says like if those students if those teachers do not have the certification, maybe they won't have that much power to like over their students. So I think although a lot of teachers are very like they care about the students more, but he's kind of like talking about the danger of some teachers who are also doing this for a more selfish reason. And I just feel like I don't think that's true, but I think that's something that maybe like I will try to remind myself of like who you are doing this for. Like are you doing this really for your students, or are you really doing this for your own like self-complacent like a kind of like you're like doing something good like, in your own mind and not really caring about the people who is receiving like this. So
yeah, I mean, when I worked for school, I had some teacher like that, just being like the position of being a teacher, thinking he can, because I'm a teacher, that so on to the student. So I guess some of the teacher is like something like that. They like to be a teacher, not a like looking at the student of learner type of, because I'm a teacher, I'm good. Because I'm a teacher, you have to listen type of thing, I think. I mean, it's not a good thing, but there is some people like that, I think.
Yeah, that's good that's important to be aware, you know, of those types of teachers that are self-serving instead of, and you know, this idea of altruism is interesting because, you know, is it possible to be 100%, you know, altruistic with complete selflessness? And I think about that because some of the things that I do, and you know, I do have a passion for this kind of work, for volunteerism, and but you know, I think the context that this was written, you know, 1968, you think about all the protests that were going on around the world in the US. And he talks about how you guys, if you really wanted to serve people, you would stay home and you know, riot and work with the people in the so quote unquote ghettos in the US. So I think that the context, you know, if we flash forward to now, you know, there's still a ton of protests and still, you know, political volatility. But I think volunteerism has changed. The landscape of the landscape of volunteerism has changed. So I think that there are some really wonderful programs that involve students that go into developing countries. But again, it goes back to what I said earlier about those beautiful people being considered inadequate when it's the system of inequities that are you know, putting them or keeping them in their place. I don't know if that made sense, but you know, I'm just all over the place because yeah, I felt a lot of things from that because first of all, I am Mexican. I was born in Mexico, so he's talking about that, and I've seen it firsthand. You know, just the gross disparity of resources in Mexico, and you know, the rich and the poor. It's a huge disparity. And as someone who's worked with seniors a lot and talking about, hey, Rebecca, it's our project to bring it up. The personal statement, the college essay, a lot of college admission representatives say that they get really tired of hearing about the mission trip statement. So it's where students, you know, they in their junior year or whatever, they go off and then they write their paper like, oh, I spent a summer in Guatemala and I did a mission and now I'm a changed person forever. And they really don't like those essays because it doesn't really speak to altruism and growth. It's just about kind of, you know, you go somewhere for 2 weeks and then you're changed. So.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to say. So my students are also high schoolers who are applying for studying in US mainly and the UK, Canada. So they're actually trying to fund agency to package for them, like doing mission trip in Siem Reap in some poor developing countries for a week, and they will use those packages to enrich their experience, which is ridiculous. It's just a travel and a package of travel, actually. They're not really helping the local people, not at all. And it has become business.
Yeah, so that people can make money out of from those students, and those students can apply for good school just saying, I did this. That's pretty bad.
Yeah,
it happens.
Like one of the very silly project is like spending a week with panda. Like, oh, I used to take care of panda for a week in the zoo. I think it's just ridiculous. Like,
it is. I mean, some people take advantage of all that thing,
and they spend like
a lot of money. I bet
thousands of dollars, to pay for the agency to allow them for like stay in Chengdu or send them to Southeast Asian countries to do the volunteer work. Yeah, but it's such a business in overseas study application.
True.
And some parents are actually obsessed with those projects. Like,
I'm sure those kind of business projects yes, for kids, I'm sure it changed little. going away from the home for 1 week, whatever that, in taking care of panda or something zoo, or going to help other people. I'm sure it has some, if you look at good side, I think the child would experience something little bit better than staying home doing nothing. Yes, I mean, it is learn something, but it's actual helping the volunteer whole thing. No, it doesn't, but is it, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
how good or bad it is. Of course, because also in US or I don't know about UK, but often they emphasize what else have you done other than schoolwork. So they have to have some kind of thing, whether you did a club or you did some volunteer, or therefore there's a people who make a business out of it, saying, oh, if you try these things, you can write it down on your resume saying you did this whole wonderful 1 week in Africa helping whatever thing type of thing. So, but it's yes, it's bad. I mean, I agree with you. It's a bad thing that it's not
I'm
actually.
not saying like it's a bad thing, but from one perspective, it actually enlarges the inequity. Because only the wealthy families can
do
afford
that, yeah.
all those fancy volunteer projects.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think it's bad or good. I mean, I don't think it's not properly used. Yeah. Well, but it does. I see those things too. It happens.
I mean, it's very similar to, well, not similar, but you can make a connection to here in the United States with Teach for America. So you have, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Teach for America. Well, you have these very passionate educators that come into a school, an urban, quote unquote, urban school, because they want to do good for 2 years. And then afterwards they go off to law school or whatever. So it's this idea of service, kind of self-serving. And, I've met some really wonderful TFA teachers that end up staying in education. So they do prepare their teachers well, but sometimes they still operate under the assumption that kids of color need saving, which I definitely agree, but it's the system that needs saving, from itself. So yeah, and going back to Mexico, in Mexico, if you guys know where Cancun is located, Cancun is a beautiful resort area, one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, I think. But in that area in Mexico, in Cancun, they have the highest suicide rate of Mexicans. And yeah, and the reason what they're pointing to is because there's so many tourists that go to Cancun, and and the people who live there, the Mexicans that live there, see the wealth. They see how this intangible lifestyle that they can never reach. So I thought about these mission vacationers, as Illich says. You're seeing these kids like now go to Guatemala, Honduras, Southeast Asia, with their iPhones and their cool kicks, and they're working on social projects in the community. And these a lot of the again, beautiful people that they're serving can never touch their lifestyle. So I wonder how that impacts their psyche and their emotional and physical well-being.
Yeah, it's so shocking. So I was also wondering, for some ethnographers or anthropologists who live in a village for 2 or 3 years doing research, if there are many anthropologists who are living in the village, would their research actually disrupt the normal functioning of the village?
I think that's definitely a concern that people like some like researchers have like about the ethics of doing those kind of research. I mean, at least like some researchers, but not that's not the right way. Maybe I would say like, so it's like in before this something like this come up, like there are researchers who basically go to an areas and do their research and then just left, and it's like they like, and then they publish a book and then they become like famous, and then so basically it's kind of like it's like some people criticize this as like you just use those participants as something for your own personal professional development because you wrote a book about them and then you get famous, but you don't really thank them in any way. Like you don't provide them any material compensation. You don't provide anything that will change their conditions. You just basically just like despicably use their misery as for your own development in academics. So some researchers are talking about, at least like if you if you go into a place and then you did some like a participant observation and or other research, maybe you should consider like if you if you publish a book and you receive some like monetary benefits from that, maybe you should consider how you can use or do something to help the community who informed you on your research.
Yeah, like here comes a distinction between, I would say, like a serious or more authentic researcher who is really doing his research for the benefit of humankind, from other researchers who are actually, like in China, this summer, one of my friends actually joined I would call it like amateur research summer camp. It's just 1 week. They went to a village and took a lot of photos, and they were having fun with lots of people during the week. But I don't think they were actually doing anything serious in the village. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. There is a distinction between different researchers.
Something I thought was interesting about Illich was like, he never says like, well, it's one thing if you are here, like if this is not just a vacation for you, like maybe you're really wanting to be a missionary. He never gives anybody that allowance. Like he's like, this is wrong, that's his title. Like regardless of your intention, like throw it out the window. And like I appreciated that and wrestled with it at the same time. Like, what if nobody did volunteer? Like is anyone in Making Caring Common with Weisboard? We talk a lot about the importance of like enlarging your circle of concern, like teaching children to enlarge their circle of concern. Like, are you doing that because he's your friend, or like, are you doing that because it's the right thing to do and you don't even know that person, but it's the right thing to do, right? So like, there is value. I think there is value to enlarging your circle of concern, to saying like, I'm growing up in this middle class existence and I've been given a lot of privilege, and like, I need to do something with that, about that, like having this conscience around it, right? Like there's good in that. But Illit like is never like at no point says that any of it is good. You know what I mean? Like it's just wrong to be going there with any type of arrogance, with any type of sense that what you have is more or better, with any, I just thought that was so radical and so interesting. And I really resonate with his point, but then I also wrestle with it at the same time. Like, so what then? Like, what do you do if you recognize that you have privilege? And like, you know, yeah, like what then? That's my question. Like, what now? Like, I realize I have privilege. What would Illit say is my next step?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe he would, and I thought about this too. I think And he kind of mentions it a little bit in his speech, is stay here, work with people here. And then I went to our indigenous population here in the United States, who have been one of the most disenfranchised and brutalized, dehumanized populations. And if students and others with these good intentions and really want to make a difference, stay here and work with the Native Americans, setting up schools or setting up educational co-ops or sharing resources. So yeah, I think maybe that's what he meant. But yeah, I was with you, Rebecca. I was like, wow, like for him, just such a powerful statement. And then, he makes a comment at the end, you can come for our mountains, you can come smell our flowers, but we don't need your help. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, and then that was the last thing he said. And then, I can imagine those students, those mission vacationers, as he called them, what they thought about when they went off to their mission. So yeah, it was very powerful. And
so
yeah.
Was the speech delivered before or after their vacation?
It was during, from what I read, it was basic. I think all the students were maybe like at a luncheon or something, is what for the context that I got from. Maybe I was wrong, but I imagine all the kids, sitting down and maybe having some really good Mexican coffee or whatever, having some breakfast. Before the trip. And yeah, right before they go off, because Cuernavaca, where he gave the speech, Cuernavaca is it's really beautiful, and it is more developed than certain areas in Mexico, before they went off to their trip. But yeah, I imagine it was like at a reception or something before they were sent off.
What if there are students who really want to help, like instead of spending a vacation, who really have this authentic hope to help others?
I think he would say first, learn the language of that area. Talk to the student, talk to the people, so you can communicate with the people who are really underprivileged, rather than just a small group of middle-class elites in that society. So I think that would be at least the first thing students should be doing.
So what kind of volunteer or philosophical work is worthwhile, is meaningful?
I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's for some students, they are doing for good intention, and you join this vacation thing, but I think it can be looked at the both side of student perspective. One, I mean, within the group of students, there is some students just doing for vacation. Let's go to whatever place I enjoy, see whatever, show off how rich we are and how better we are, whatever. Yeah, sometimes they may have that kind of intention too, but I can get a new friend, I can get drunk, whatever that might be. But there's of course some other student who's just sign up because to see reality and then learn things and then do really purely from heart, thinking, I want to do something better. But at the same time, on the provider side, on that developing country, which the person, like this leading was saying, just negative saying all the negative thing, I think in the beginning, it have to be mentioned how the situation is. It's not, I think both of providing who is getting support on that country and then who is going there, and they have to really communicate first in order to really stand in same ground, because what they wanted to do and then what the need the country want may be totally different. Then there is totally misunderstanding from the beginning. But if it's in the beginning, it's defined more clearly what kind of thing is needed, what kind of or I think they often sometimes develop, I mean, I don't know how to say, developing country need, and then what the how do you call outside other than develop the regular, not regular, but US or whatever modernized country going, is they sometimes assuming, yes, you must need this, therefore we are donating this, or but actual reality is not true. I mean, many years ago, for example, in China, what I read, Japanese government donated the bus of the X-ray bus, so that the bus can go around the town and then doing a medical things, whatever that may be. I don't know exactly how it was, but at that time, yes, in a few years it worked, but they never told them to how to fix a bus. So a year later, bus was used for regular commuting bus type of thing. Then it doesn't really help anything. I mean, it's just, I think it's really important to what intention of doing volunteer job or whatever that may be of doing, and then what actual people want to do is totally different. I think that's I think main misunderstanding is how you put the base together, communication, because it's always different. Yeah, so can I talk a little more regarding this? I mean, sorry, it's totally off the topic of this book. Okay, okay. My parents started a computer school in Japan, the first private computer school in Japan. Then we donated the computers to developing countries around the world, in Africa and China, including China also, and then many of the places in we have been doing over 22 countries. And then we started in the Thailand, and what we did is we bought a lot of computer for our student in Japan. And then we had a lot of computer that we need to do something about it. So my mom and my sister decided it's good to donate to some countries. And then we had my uncle was in Thailand working for some university. So we first did in Thailand, and then, but it was a lot of difficulty because in Thailand, in the government, we didn't want to donate to private company, because private company just do their own benefits. So we decided to work with the government. And then, but government, of course, didn't want a used one. They thought they were getting a brand new computer for the university or something. But our intention was we had to took several back and forth talking to government. We are very small private school, little small one. And then we don't have any budget. And then so we have to, my mom and my sister have to talk to Thai government and what we wanted was, we wanted to donate computer to high school or junior high school where there is they cannot get hands-on. The purpose for us was so that computer education will be more easier to get access to people in Thailand. But government people thought they'll be getting it for the researcher, top university type of thing. This was done, I saw it's off the topic, but it's done many years ago, like in the 1990s. So a long time ago, we did it. So we had the experience. It was very hard to do. What we thought my mother, my parents were thinking, we just donate for the goods use, but the other receiver side was getting totally different they misunderstood what our purpose was. So those things, it just have to, I mean, it took long time to several times, and then we managed to we did it very successfully, but it's always, so after this experience, I thought either side, volunteer side or receiver side or country, they have to really match what they are I think it's lack of communication, it causes more problem, I think. So just my thought. Sorry, it was something completely
No,
off
no, thank you so much. No, I think it's quite related to the topic.
Sure, you talk about resources, talk about access, school. So yeah, man, it's all interconnected, Akira. So you're good, man.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Akira. And it's definitely relevant. It's in real life what we should do. Like, even if we have good intentions, there are other things that we need to consider. And sorry, sorry that this goes longer, but I hope that you all enjoy the conversation. And so we basically will depend on the reading, like amount of reading. So next time, if we get fewer readings time, we may just do 40 minutes discussion. But if we find some interesting thing to talk about, then we can do an hour. So just and thank you for spending like the extra time today. I didn't expect that, but I think it was fun listening to all of you talking about the readings this week.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
I have a question. I don't know if you guys would be down. Maybe if we could, if we get together, maybe we could share some of our projects, like how we're doing on our project. And you know, I'd love to see what you guys are working on, and maybe you can give me and Rebecca feedback, or then we can do the same.
So you and Rebecca are doing the project together, right?
And George, there's a fellow T550er as well. So we got our little collective of
it's cool.
Educators.
Yeah, I love the idea, like talking about the project and getting some inspirations and ideas.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah, maybe next time we can start with just like talking about each other's project, like, and then keep like maybe like spend like depending on the people, maybe 20 minutes, and then for the later 40 minutes.
Yeah, we can incorporate them together.
I need to work on it. I haven't done much.
All good, man.
Thank you so much.
You got this.
All.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for your time.
Have a great day. Good night.
Good night.
Bye bye. Wow, so cute.
Cute.